Brands are not new, but what started to happen is that companies, instead of seeing their primary role as producing products and then branding them with a corporate identity, we're now seeing their primary role as producing brands, image, meaning, which could be stretched into many different arenas, and that producing the product was almost incidental. When you buy a pair of shoes, say a Nike pair of shoes, even though there's a Nike swoosh on it, Nike didn't make those shoes. Nike bought those shoes. And the way that they did it is probably they approached a broker in Hong Kong. And that broker in Hong Kong told them which factory could produce those shoes for the cheapest price. So the contract to make those shoes was given to a factory in China, in Vietnam, in Indonesia. But that contractor may then decide that they can even get a cheaper price by contracting with subcontract factories. And at every stage, the amount of money that goes to the workers shrinks, and you end up with this maze of contract and subcontract factories. The Nike paradigm, as it is now called, was held up as the future of the corporate world. Now, what makes a product cheaper, one product cheaper than the next? They can't scrimp too much on materials because obviously there needs to be a baseline level of quality in all the products or they're going to go out of business. So where they usually manage to get the savings is how much they pay the workers.
Human rights groups say Nike pays some workers in Asia less than $1 a day and employs child labor in some of its plants.
And part of the way that you keep wages down is by tightly controlling a workforce, making sure that they don't start forming unions and making demands for things like health care benefits, job security, more control over their lives. These goods are produced in what are called export processing zones. They're often called maquiladoras. What they are special industrial parks that have been set up especially to produce goods for export to the United States, to Canada, to Europe. They are walled in. There are high fences, and there are usually armed guards monitoring these zones. The workforce is incredibly young and almost entirely female. The dominant age is 18 to 25, and I would say that they were about 80% women. And the women who worked there didn't come from the surrounding areas. They came from provinces that were 6 or 7 hours away. This was in the Philippines and Indonesia. And the people who I met said that they felt that this was done on purpose, that they were designing a workforce that was very, very easy to control, that there was a feeling that women were easier to control than men, young women were easier to control than older women, and that girls who are far from their family and their community and their infrastructure, what makes them strong and rooted, are easier to push around. Are constantly feeling scared and unstable, and this is why it's an easier workforce to control.